Hello guys, today we will be recapping a futuristic psychological thriller movie titled Ex Machina, which was released in 2015. The movie is about a man who is roped into a twisted test to validate an AI robot's intelligence. Well, let's get on with the video. The movie starts in a futuristic-looking office, where a man named Caleb works. He's coding when he gets a message saying that he won the first prize in the staff lottery. As he texts his friend about it, the camera is scanning his face while his co-workers congratulate him through text and also in real life. Later, he rides a helicopter through picturesque glaciers to go to a residence as part of his prize. The pilot informs him that they've been flying over the estate for 2 hours when Caleb asks when they'll arrive. Caleb gets dropped off in a clearing, and the pilot tells him to follow the river until he reaches the building. While walking through the woods, he realizes that his phone has no signal. Upon reaching the building, he gets greeted by an automated voice who tells him to approach the screen. It takes a picture of Caleb and puts it on his keycard before opening the front door. He enters the house and admires how beautiful and huge it is, before he meets the owner of the company he works in, Nathan, who is exercising on the patio. Nathan greets Caleb and offers him something to drink or eat before telling him how he's very hungover at the moment. The conversation between the two is awkward, and Nathan tells Caleb to chill out and forget that he's Caleb's boss for the week that they're going to spend together. It seems like Nathan has been living there alone for quite a while. The two then head to the hallway where Nathan explains that the keycard will let Caleb know which rooms he can enter and which ones he can't. They then enter a bedroom where Caleb is going to stay for the week, and although it's a very nice room, Caleb mentions that there are no windows. Nathan then reveals that the building isn't actually a house, but more of a research facility full of high-end technology. Nathan then tells Caleb that he's excited to share what he's been researching for a while, but Caleb has to sign a non-disclosure agreement first. Caleb hesitates because the agreement sounds very invasive, but Nathan manages to convince him by saying that his research would be a groundbreaking one. After Caleb signs the NDA, the two talks about what the Turing test is, which is a test to see if a person could notice that they're talking to a computer. It turns out that Nathan wants Caleb to be the human component in the Turing test for an AI robot that he's been developing. The next day, they start the test where Caleb is put in a room with a glass divider and Nathan is observing him in another room. There, Caleb sees a female-like robot coming into the room on the other side of the divider. They greet each other, and the robot tells him that her name is Ava. Ava has a feminine silhouette but only some parts of her body look human, as the rest is transparent and shows her inner machinery. They proceed to have a conversation, with Caleb clearly trying to test her AI qualities with different questions that progressively get more complex. After the first session, Nathan and Caleb have some beers together as Caleb gushes about how amazing Project Ava is. He tries to talk about the technicalities, but Nathan wants to just have a beer and talk with him. Nathan's aim for the test is to know whether Caleb would think that Ava has consciousness, even after knowing that she is definitely a robotic AI. Later in his room, Caleb can't sleep so he turns on the TV only to find that it's showing live CCTV footage of Ava's living quarters. He's weirded out but watches Ava doing her routine when suddenly the power goes out. Caleb panics as he can't get out of his room, but the power returns shortly and he goes out to a room with a phone in it. Nathan startles Caleb by saying that he's not allowed to use the phone due to the agreement. It turns out that Nathan is drinking in that room, and he goes on a drunk ramble before Caleb asks him about the power outage. Nathan says he's working on it and that Caleb couldn't get out because of the automatic lockdown. The next morning, Caleb is awakened by Kyoko, a Japanese girl who does not speak to him or interact with him in any way. Nathan later tells Caleb that she does not speak English since it allows him to talk about his project without worrying about any information being leaked. Caleb meets with Ava again in the next session, and it seems like she's flirting with him. Suddenly, the power goes out again and Ava warns him not to trust Nathan. It turns out that Ava is the one causing the power outages, probably to try to communicate without being found out by Nathan. That evening, Caleb and Nathan eat dinner together which Kyoko has prepared for them. While serving the food, she accidentally knocks over a glass of wine which spills onto Caleb. This prompts Nathan to act aggressively towards her before telling her to leave. He then talks about the previous session with Ava and asks what happened when the power went out, but Caleb says nothing happened. Nathan and Caleb hike up the mountain the next day. They stop near a stream, where Nathan reveals that Caleb didn't win the lottery. He was selected to come and test Ava's artificial intelligence. Nathan wanted the best person for the job. He looked throughout the company and found that Caleb is the most talented coder they have employed. Caleb and Ava's bond develops as they spend more time together. When Ava dresses up to appear more human to Caleb, their relationship reaches a peak. He is both perplexed and excited by this. He tells Nathan that he thinks this is all a ruse and that Ava was programmed to flirt with him. Nathan rants at Caleb before showing him his lab and explaining how Ava's brain works. Nathan goes on to explain how he has been scanning the faces, voices, and behaviors of the entire world's population with his own search engine in order to create a completely self-evolving mind. One evening, Caleb watches the CCTV footage of Nathan entering Ava's room and tearing up a sketch she was working on. This makes Caleb feel like Nathan is abusing her, as well as Kyoko. Later, Caleb takes Nathan to his room after he gets severely drunk one evening. He notices several cabinets and catches a peek of Nathan's observation room from there. The next day, Caleb asks Nathan what he would do with Ava if she failed the Turing test. She will be updated, Nathan responds, implying that her memory would be wiped. Caleb is clearly upset by this idea. He then steals Nathan's key card and gains entrance to the observation room while Nathan is drunk and passed out. He finds recordings on Nathan's computer which reveal that he has been working on various female AIs for some time, all of which had retaliated against him. When Caleb walks into Nathan's room, he notices Kyoko lying naked on the bed. When he opens the closets, he sees all of the damaged and disabled robots. Kyoko then rips the flesh from her face, revealing that she is an AI as well. Caleb rushes out of the room just in time to catch Nathan wandering about the hallway, wasted and looking for his missing key card. Caleb places the key card on the floor and gives it to Nathan as if Nathan had dropped it earlier. After making sure he himself is human, Caleb tells Ava to cause another power outage during their final session, as he wants to help her escape the facility. His plan is to get Nathan drunk again before shutting him in his room using the auto-lockdown feature that happens during every outage. The next morning, Nathan and Caleb are together in the kitchen, when Nathan talks about how time flies as Caleb is scheduled to be picked up the next day. Caleb hands Nathan a drink for a toast, but Nathan declines it. He then takes Caleb to the observation room where he shows Caleb the footage of him ripping Ava's drawing and how she's not actually bothered by it by the audio. It turns out that Nathan had also placed a battery-powered camera in Ava's room which recorded Caleb's plan to help Ava escape. Nathan explains that Caleb himself was the real test. To escape, Ava had to use self-awareness, imagination, manipulation, sexuality, and empathy. Nathan also explains that Ava is customized to Caleb's preferences based on data acquired from his pornographic searches and other sources. Caleb is informed by Nathan that Ava is not in love with him and is merely using him to escape. He interprets this as proof that she is a genuine AI and calls the test a success. When the blackout finally happens, Caleb explains his plan to change the auto-lockdown system to instead unlock all doors when the power is out. It turns out that he had already done it when Nathan was drunk the last time and Nathan panically sees Ava leaving her room once the power is restored. He then knocks out Caleb with a punch before taking a barbell handle as a weapon and heading towards Ava. Meanwhile, Ava meets with Kyoko, and they silently communicate to work together on taking down Nathan. Nathan enters the hallway, and Ava runs at him before pinning him down on the floor. He manages to turn over and hits Ava's arm off, before being stabbed by Kyoko in the back as he drags Ava. In shock, Nathan manages to hit off a part of Kyoko's face which causes her to shut down, but he gets stabbed again by Ava. He stumbles before sitting on the floor and dies in front of Ava. Ava meets Caleb in Nathan's room before leaving and raiding the old closet. She starts collecting parts of the other AI to make her look like a human. Ava walks back down the corridor. She looks at Kyoko's body for a moment. Her expression is inscrutable. She abandons Caleb at the facility and leaves the facility to go to his pickup location. She is flown out of the region and into human society. Meanwhile, Caleb tries to escape to no avail. He is now alone and trapped in the facility. That's the end of today's recap. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and see you in our next recap.